going on, everyone? Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone, to another stream over here at Level Effect. Back in action with SOC 100-2. Hopping in to log analytics a little bit more with ELK today. Morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. And welcome back to another stream. What's going on, everyone? How's everyone doing? Pretty good sizable audience already. First couple minutes in at 22. That means probably gonna go up a little bit more chat today. Got some more active viewers. All right. KS back in. Alan, Bearded, Dev, Hysteria, Lemur, Mike, Patricia, R Double, Tom Tom, Urfom, and Zeno. Cool. KS, you're here for the entertainment before you start studying Project Plus. Well, I hope we and I can entertain you. That'll be the goal. Tom, good morning. Gotta be hopping off early. That's all good, yeah. So actually, Tom and Dropside Discord as well too. It's going to be it's a shorter stream today because we're just going to be wrapping up the log analytics and Yara portion for this module. So it's a little bit of a shorter stream. We can take our time, but probably only until like 12. So like a 10 to 12 stream, I think. Shorter one. Karina, Zeno, what's going on? Jacopo, what's going on, man? Nice. Doug's looking to hop in the sprawl. So if anyone wants to, hang out in the sprawl in Discord, that'd be kind of fun. You're planning to hop off around 12:30. As you should be good, Tom. KS, any ETA on the level effect bug? I don't want to say 1 week. I was hoping for like on the Tuesday, but we'll see. We'll see if I can get them done and ready by then. If not, probably the second week. Just heard my fire alarm beep. That's kind of weird. CI, welcome back. Bad weather in northern Italy this weekend. You got this. How cold does it get in northern Italy? This stream's about to be fired, right? Yeah, Karita, maybe it needs a new battery. It's just like a single beep. That's gonna be kind of annoying though. I need to go see if I can like silence that. Give me 1 second. Yep. It's a low battery. Low battery in the fire alarm. Okay, well, hopefully nothing bad happens while it's silenced. It's probably not the smartest thing to do, but got some streaming to do here. We got some SOC 100 content to get through. 5 to 6 sales. Yeah, jeez. I mean, I don't want to make you feel bad, Jacopo, but I went for a walk this morning. It's minus 20 Celsius over here, so I went outside, had a nice good walk. So 5 to 6 that's like t-shirt weather, man. So there's a local IT place giving a 3-weekend Sec Plus boot camp for $2,200. That is insane. $2,200. And you know what? People are going to pay for that. And that's the part that I think really bothers. I know it bothers me. It bothers all of us here at Level Effect. It clearly bothers you all in chat as well. It's yeah, Doug's saying that's not outrageous. It's not actually. That's actually like a lower end. Like it's I don't know. So, you know, question for everyone in chat as well. Actually, on that content, 32 people over here. We'll get started over here. Mark, thanks for the follow, man. That's a whole 5090. Yeah, we're gonna be pricing our cybersecurity training in 5090s because ain't nobody buying a 5080. That's not the card to get. Okay, so question for everyone while you're here too, because this is something that I've been thinking about with like okay, so like we have our CDA live training. We consider it is expensive, and I mean it's a high value course. It's 14 weeks, I think. There's a lot of support, a lot of one-on-one and stuff. Live class challenges, like we're definitely there. You get a lot more than just doing it on your own. However, it's still a big commitment. So, like, what is everyone's thoughts if, like, we still want to teach the CDA live, obviously, but what if we taught just, like, modules of it over a weekend? And it would be, like, I don't know, like a certain amount of content that we would do for, like, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it would be cheaper. And we would just do, like, sections of that. Now, as a whole, I think it would probably add up to the same price, but at least it gives people the, I guess, like, the opportunity, if you want to just do some live training over the weekend, and we just kind of focus on those modules, so you technically get more of it, like, more of the module, more time spent on it with us, but more in that, like, several hundred-ish, like, I don't know what price range, but curious what everyone's thoughts are on that, because I think 14 weeks of a program is still a lot of time as a commitment, as we can see even like with October. We've been doing this, right, every single weekend, but it's a lot, like, to just keep on going through a course. But if you could just, like, take a module and then or two, like a module or two, and then just do like a weekend training on that for a lower price point live. Curious what everyone's thoughts are. Like, is that something that you'd actually even be interested in? Just trying to find some other ways that we could provide that that live training, but not like here's 14 weeks all at once. Curious. Makes sense. Good morning, DevOps. Yeah. Doug, parts and let them decide what they want to advance. Plus, this has been successful, so it might be good to break it up. Yeah. Okay, saying I'd like to see like a roadmap. If it was similar to software type of stream, I think it'd be awesome. Yeah, cool. Karina saying, yeah, makes sense because it gives people flexibility. Yeah, so like, you know, like we would do the 14 weeks like straight, obviously still, but then you could like modularly train people as well too. Our double sounds like an awesome idea, probably accessible to more people. Yeah, right? Like maybe not everyone wants to do the entire 14 weeks. Maybe they just want to do like the 2 weeks of log analytics that we could condense over to like 2 weekends or something. So interesting. Okay. Going forward, yeah, especially with during the week. Yeah, with work during the week. For Easy Does It. Interesting. Okay. Good feedback. Price-wise, more accessible as well, too. Kind of just like a little bit at a time instead of a big chunk. Yeah, okay. Interesting, interesting. CI likes the idea. Okay. Because we are going... So we're going to be having the... So Johnny's working on the defer course. Oh, okay, yeah. I was wondering. I was like... I've seen that. Okay, so Ariel. All right. Ariel's now Easy Does It. Am I saying that right? Was that the intention? Is like Easy Does It? Or let me know if I'm even saying that properly. But, yeah, you are, I am? Okay, cool. So Johnny's going to be making the defer course. And that's going to be a live course. That's going to be like a weekend kind of thing that we can train. So much more focused. So that's going to be something that we're going to be doing. Belzebuka, what are they talking about? Trying to think of another type of training offering. Like if we broke up CDA Live into modules that we would teach over a weekend instead of like, and it would be like a full, you know what I mean, like a full class, probably like a half day on Friday, but then a full day Saturday kind of thing. Bearded, we're really breaking the industry in a phenomenal way. Appreciate that for the price point. Yeah, that's awesome to hear, man. We just want to be able to find a way to do more of it, I guess, and like scale better instead of just like locking people to like a 14-week kind of program as well. So, Tycho, thanks for the follow. Okay, good feedback. Interesting. Okay, 10-12, 10-13. Yeah, Doug's cooking up some more threat hunting and stuff. Bearded, what would the time be for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? I think, well, Friday I think would be more of like a I guess like a getting started, maybe like a couple hours, just to make sure like, okay, let's get our bases, let's get the intros ready. Let's talk a little bit about like the first piece of content. So maybe like a 3 or 4 hour kind of thing on the Friday, maybe like a 12 to 4 or whatever, or maybe I don't know, or maybe like do it in the evening, or maybe just not even do it on the Friday. Maybe just do it on Saturday, Sunday, and just do like 2 full days. So like maybe like 6 hours of training on Saturday and Sunday. So like 2 good focus days on some content. Kind of like going. If any of you took some extra classes in high school, you did weekend classes and stuff. CI, the cohort's going away. I don't think so, but I think I don't know if everyone's interested in a 14-week training, right? Like that's a lot. It's a lot of time to commit to, and it's a lot of money up front. Maybe it's easier to have the core, like maybe do that cohort once a year, like a rolling sign up, and then modularize like the live training throughout the year after that, so that maybe for those that want the 14-week immersive, go for it. We'll do that once a year, like in a big group, but then we can do, and maybe even do it longer. Yeah, see, most boot camps are 6 months though. Exactly, right? Like maybe the one live cohort is longer, or something like that, and then you would modularize it out over the weekends to not do 2 cohorts a year like we're currently doing. So I don't know. Previous cohorts were 8 hours a week. Yeah, so maybe you're good with 8 hours per weekend. Yeah, that's true, Karina. That's a good point. 4 hours Saturday, 4 hours Sunday. Maybe 5, like 5 hours each day, so we can have like a break, like 2 hours break, 2 hours break kind of thing. Yeah, see, bearded for a small price. Yeah, exactly, right? So like, that's the problem. That training as well too. Like the boot camps are gouging hard. 14 to 20K plus I've seen. Okay, interesting. Okay, well I'll leave it at that. That's good feedback for now because we got to get onto the content. But I'll say, if you guys can, go ahead. Can you drop some comments in the Discord general chat as well too? If you have more comments, more ideas, we would like to do some more weekend training, more streams like this that we would do private, and focus on that way. Belza, thanks for the shirt. Yeah, that's right. Labyrinth, so good. Okay, cool. All right, so today we are working on ELK. So we're going to hop back inside of ELK. We're going to get through the last log analytics lesson, and then we're also going to be doing Yara. So we're going to take our first look at Yara, where we can learn how to use the tool for pattern matching for strings and binary content. We're going to focus on just the strings portion of Yara, because it'll get a little bit too complex for where we're at when we start getting to hex and binary and stuff. So we're going to learn how to use that too, which is an awesome tool. Super fast, super efficient. And I think it'll give you an idea sort of how intrusion detection systems and sort of like IDS rules and detection engineering and logic works. at a more introductory scale and see how effective that they actually are. Okay, let's do this. All right. So we left off at ELK investigation, and we're going to go fire up our ELK server and our Windows workstation now. So let those kick up in the background. And so the way that this lab works is we're under the assumption that we have a user over here, or we don't know who the user is just yet, but we have some alert activity around command line prompt execution. Okay, so things on the command line, namely, and we're just going to say we'll go with PowerShell. That's what this is going to be about. And so we have command line activity that is suspect at this point in time because we've seen administrative commands being executed, ipconfig and stuff, and the net command. So that's kind of what we're starting off with in this introduction right now, and we're going to utilize ELK to make our lives easier. Because what would you do if you don't have ELK? That'd be my question. If you don't have ELK, and you don't have a SIEM, you don't have a log aggregation tool for analytics, what would you do? What would you do if you had some type of alert that there are administrative commands being executed via PowerShell? What would y'all do? DeepSeek, yeah. You'd have to pour through logs. Yeah. Log in and investigate. Remote in, take a look at event viewer, see what you got. So this is our first look using a tool like this. I think a lot of you, especially on the recording, when you're first getting here as well too, for all the new viewers, this is the first time. We took a brief look at ELK last week, and we just spun it up. We went through the analytics and looked at the histogram and ran some filters and some queries to kind of see how the platform, the dashboard works. But now we're going to take a little bit more of a deeper look at it and actually perform some analytics on a investigation. So this is also threat hunting. And I'm also going to highlight that because I know that when students see threat hunting, they're like, oh my God, I want to do more threat hunting. I want to be a threat hunting analyst. I want to be a threat hunter, which we've talked about. Super cool. Not really so much a dedicated position unless you're maybe something with I don't know, the DoD or defense related positions and such, or MSPs that are dedicated with a higher tier role just for that kind of stuff. But threat hunting per se is something you're going to be doing with SOC related positions. Anything that is a incident response level of activity. So that will include threat hunting. The digital forensics will as well too, and that's why we lump some defer together as sort of a single thing, and threat hunting is embedded in that. And threat hunting is just hunting for threats. There's no complicating it, okay? Is that fired up now? I think so. Okay, basically gather all of the logs yourself, and the SIEM efficiently collects all of that. Exactly. So this is why this is going to be so much easier for us by using a tool like ELK. Karina, last we left off, last Sunday, local admin was executing commands in PowerShell. Yes! Karina, our resident cyber threat intelligence analyst in chat, always. She's always got the investigation nailed down. Always. So, we're going to take a look at that. Now, before we hop into ELK, remember what I said, that ELK is effectively Google for your endpoints. If you think about it from that perspective, it'll make your life a lot easier, because a common trope that students get really hung up with when they're starting to learn a SIEM, whether it's ELK, Splunk, and any of the additional security tools with those, etc., they get kind of hung up. They're like, I need to get better with ELK, or I need to get better with Splunk. And to some extent, that's true, but that should be expected exposure and experience that you get by just using the tool in and of itself. What you should really be trying to focus and ask yourself is, how do I get better at finding or understanding or locating indicators of compromise on a target operating system or network appliance, and conversely, how do I also look for indicators of attack as well too? Both ways. And I think if you think about it like that, it'll make your life a lot easier, because once you understand what you're truly looking for, then you just need to understand, well, what is the ELK query that I need to match up for it? Or how has my organization set up our log ingestion to populate certain fields that I can look up for reference and find my way to what I'm trying to find. So we're going to open up Notepad++. And before we actually even start working with ELK, we want to think a little bit about our investigation. Like, what are we actually doing? So let's close that. Open up a new one. Try to open up a new Notepad file and then open up a new browser, so the RDP session's not fully synced that way. But okay. So investigation at this time. We have PowerShell activity of local, I think it was all lowercase, right? Local admin. User is running administrative commands, and we don't have an official alert provided for you, like a snippet of something like snort or something like that to that end. So administrative commands being ipconfig and net. So that's sort of what has tripped us at this point. So that's not inherently bad, right? At this point in time. And this is where we were talking about last week, the concepts, or I think it was the week before that, right? The incident and a breach. So right now we have a security incident, because yes, they're a local admin, but these types of commands are not commands that a regular user would be using. Maybe ipconfig, maybe, you might have like a savvy user and their workstation's not connecting to a website properly or something, or I don't know, or maybe they can't connect out. They're like, oh, I'm going to run ipconfig, and they actually could connect out and it was a DNS issue. So maybe that would trip like ipconfig. And then the net command. Net is much more of an administrative command with like net users, etc. So if this is happening, we have at this point in time now have a security incident, okay? Yeah. Now, your company will set the policy of what is normal, right? Like, this is why we're always saying that it depends, because it does depend. Like, what is the baseline of your organization? I don't know. We don't have an organization in this case. Baseline will determine the degree of what this incident is or is not, based on the alert. A breach could be considered thereafter if there is an impact to anything CIA related. So if we have unauthorized access, if we have a compromise of integrity, trust, right? And then if there is some type of denial or intermittent denial of access approved confidential data. Okay. There it is. Thanks for the follow. So at this point in time, we have a security incident. We don't have a breach. And remember, we talked about the incident being more of a potential. So something's potentially wrong here at this point in time. So before we hop into ELK, we need to think about what are the fields that we would even be interested in at this point. Like, what are they? We get to what we talked about in the past. we get to persistence, process, and networking. Yeah, Spencer, it's right. Command line arguments, right? We're clearly looking for something along to that end. But more importantly, what are some other fields that we could, what else could we inspect from like a process level? So we're saying command line arguments. What else? Think back to your Windows triage. You can lead a little bit here too if you're... Let's think back. Local admin, running PowerShell commands, administrative commands as well too. What would we want to see or inspect as data points? I'll start you off a little bit more with process. What about the PID? What's the process ID? What else you guys got? How did command line arguments show the process? So yeah, Karina, try not to think so much about like what ELK filter or query you're looking at for right now, but if you were just doing Windows triage for this activity without ELK, what would you be interested in? What types of data points? What else? Running processes, yeah, okay. So maybe like a task list. Yeah, good. Xeno, registry keys, cool, yeah. So that's more the persistent side, registry keys. What else? Usernames, yeah. So that's more the process side potentially, usernames. Registry keys, okay, so we're back on persistence. We're saying process has started, yeah, okay. So auto runs, auto starts. Services, tasks, right? When those processes had started, yeah, okay. So process event time or event time and or action, right? So we're looking at start or end, okay. Working directories, yeah, okay. So that'll be a little bit more on process side, working directory of the command line. Hey, you know, are we in system 32? Are we in just like the root C or C users, right? So we're, what else? Yeah, okay. Files created, right? Okay, so that can be a little bit more on the persistence, right? So that's disk activity. Files created or deleted. IT, so Jacopo, you're saying sysinternals tools such as Procmon, yeah, so not so much the tool itself, Jacopo, think more like what is Procmon looking at? And Procmon is looking at for like thread operations, or API calls, maybe. Spencer, environmental variables, yeah, perfect, yeah, and that can sort of be in both places, I would say, environmental variables. So we're going to look here, and we're going to look also here too, both ways. Severity levels, bearded, yeah, okay. Severity levels, if known. Okay, so yeah, Demorie, so you're saying increase in network traffic in and out. What would that look like if we had logs? So what could we maybe capture for increase in network traffic in and out? What maybe think about like protocols. How would we be able to determine that if we're doing like an investigation like this? Yeah, perfect. So we're looking for IP addresses, maybe source and destination, right? We'll always have the client server. Yeah, perfect. DNS. More specifically, what about DNS? So like records, queries, questions, answers. Windows Defender alerts, if anything. Yeah. So that could be a little bit more under process. We might capture that. So Defender, AMZ, AV, EDR related logs or messages. Through a handshake was completed, incomplete. Yeah, okay, so we're looking at so TCP flags, right? We're looking at SYN, SYNAC. Okay. Yeah, perfect. Network ports. Resource monitor for network task manager. Yeah. See what we can maybe grab. Maybe task manager. Reflective, or rather task manager activity or logs that could capture resource usage. Authentication logs. Yeah, perfect. That's right. So that could be a little bit more under even like persistence itself. So maybe like auth, kern types of logs. Maybe something is kicking around over there, and that this could also even be around like the process level too. It kind of like lives in both areas. That's right. Yeah. So we have more flags, more spikes. Okay. Cool. Good. All right. So this is what I'm talking about. What we're effectively doing here. New users created it. Yeah. Okay, exactly. So user creation, permissions changed, services or tasks altered, or status changed, right? Any odd behavior, single, yeah. Patterns or behavioral anomalies of baseline. Perfect. Okay, so what we've effectively done here is we have prepared sort of two things here. We have our list of defer related activities to look for, which also turns into threat hunting at the same time, which is super cool. This is it in a nutshell, and this is why I was saying to you back in the Windows Triage module that it doesn't really get too much more complicated than this. Like, there are only so many points of data that you can be looking for, and the hard part is really just connecting the dots. Truly. Because you can get all the data you want. Like, you can capture all of this, all the threat operations, all the API calls, all the logs and events. You can capture all of that. That's not the problem. That is not the problem at all. You can go and capture every single thing possible and then pipe them over to a SIEM, or you can ask an analyst to look for it manually. The problem is being able to connect those dots in a way that is useful with the time and the resources that you have available to triage it. Because you can't go on every single security incident and look through every single one of these things. You wouldn't have a job. You wouldn't have a company. You'd run out of money because there's no budget that would allow that. Maybe the DoD, maybe a Department of Defense level is going to have enough money and budget to hire many analysts to go and look through every single thing and look for odd suspect anomalies. But even then, they're not going to. Because there's only so much that you can actually look for, and then you rule out with some degree of confidence that there's really no other way that something could have happened. So, a SIEM comes into this place to automate all this for us. All what we are looking for inside of ELK or Splunk or Greylog, any of the others, doesn't matter. All what we are looking for are these things inside that dashboard. So please, as new students, when you start this, you do not want to become the grandmaster of a SIEM tool. You want to become more proficient and more knowledgeable about these things. And then the transition of what you want to look for in an index of logs is just a reference check away. You don't need to memorize every single possible data point on your index as an analyst. Now, if you were maybe like a SIEM engineer, if you were someone responsible for the pipeline of ingesting and normalizing and shaping and trimming and tuning this entire pipeline of getting the logs over to a dashboard for an analyst to look at, then yeah, like your job is a little bit more looking at that at a very fine detail and combing through it of like, okay, we can look at less of this. We don't need that field. We can save data over here. We're having duplicates of process name, of login events. Like there's many duplicates, so let's trim and clean all that up. You as the analyst, you in DFIR, you in threat hunting are much more interested in this. This is your working knowledge of what you need to think of, because this is all that it can extend to. Now, what we didn't cover here was more like memory forensics and such, which you're not going to get that much of. You're not going to get too much of activity of that inside of a SIEM. This is why we have like quarantining and isolating a host, so you can go and extract captured disk and memory files for further forensics in different types of tools. I think this is why, like, I think Doug is building out some stuff with Velociraptor later on for us to take a look at, and maybe even volatility and other tools. There's other tools for that, for us to get under the hood and go and inspect memory, and maybe we can even do some deeper level forensics of like the kernel and firmware and such as well too, and see what's going on around there. That's a different story. You, especially as like SOC Tier 1 analysts, when you're starting in the field, is getting as knowledgeable as you can about as much of this as possible, but focusing more on like those Tier 1 level of perimeter levels of events, like a user opening up an email, as we've talked about, a user going to a website, downloading something, and then what happens is you have a ton of activity that is reflected in this. All of that. That's what happens. So here's your job. Your job, whether you're a SOC Tier 1 analyst or going up to 3 and beyond, or 2 and beyond, right? I'll drop this out of Discord because I don't think it's going to fit well inside of the chat. But I'll drop this out of Blue Team. Get better at this. Per the stream right now. Okay. And so on. And then build out that list more. But that's effectively your unsorted, unfiltered, uncategorized playbook. Like if you were to be like, okay, I'm just going to start from A to Z, this is it. And then there's more, obviously. But this is it. So now what we want to do is think about our incident and think about what's relative to what is amongst this list and start at the most probable point. If I had an incident or an alert saying that we had PowerShell activity for local admin running administrative commands, well, I'm probably going to be focused on just that, right? I'm not going to be going and looking out for, like, I don't know. Let's just use something kind of outlandish and wild over here. I'm not going to be looking at them right away for opening up like Windows File Explorer, because that's not what had happened. It's maybe related, but it's not related to what the incident or the alert was saying. So yes, while we have an exhaustive list of things to look for, well, do we need to look at all of them right away? And this is where threat hunting makes our job easier. It's about being relative to the investigation at this point in time. So let's start with just that. That's it. Bearded saying, learning this has helped me get to the main point when I'm working with my tickets. When you're working my tickets going through the SIEM, and helps for documentation of the story, what happens. Exactly. It's about building a narrative. It's about building a timeline of events and figuring out what happened. It's telling a story. So, to some degree, general operating system knowledge is part of it, but then you just become a dictionary, as I've said before. The other part of it is being creative and critical with your time and thinking about what do you need to do first and working from a priority level. And then finally, the last part of it is putting it together in some form of documentation, whether that's a report or a summary or whatever it might be. So let's go and hop inside of this. So we have over here 10.1.179 is our ELK server. Port 5601 where we were at last week. And we have to look at the range of here, okay? So July 10th, 2023, from 200 to 500. Let's go inside there. Whoops, wrong one. Analytics, get rid of that little, we don't want to enable security this time, so we're going to disable that. And let's go into Discover. Show dates, absolute. And we want to go to July 2023, 10th. And we said 200, right? 200 to absolute July 2023, 10th. 500. So we have at this point 22,184 hits, and we were talking about that last week, that there was really no possible way that we could figure out what was going on. So what are some of the common things that we could look for? Well, if we go and take a look at maybe a user.name, and we can see right away that the majority of it is system and various services on the endpoint, but then we have probably about 12% of the traffic is for local admin. So the first thing we want to do when we're using ELK is we want to build our columns. If we don't have a template or anything saved, we want to build our columns for what's necessary. So user.name, clearly, definitely going to be one of them that we're looking for. Process.name, definitely going to be another one that we're looking for. We also want to look at process.parent.name, right? Because we want to see what's actual. I'll put this one over to the left so it's kind of more chronological. So I'm also going to hide this just for a moment. So we have our username, a process.parent.name, and then the actual process name of what it is. So we can see some things just like generally off the bat of what's going on. And this is why I said before it's important to understand all the service hosts that we saw, sort of like containers for services. As we can see, like this SVC host is actually for DLL host.exe and so forth like that. And I bet if I could just do a quick tally at some point, I'll probably get to like PowerShell. I'm going to stop scrolling because we're not going to get anywhere with that. So user.name, process.name, process.parent.name would be good as well too. And maybe, whoops, wrong area to click on. Command. So we have process, command line, and now we can actually see what was being executed over there. And just for the hell of it, maybe process.parent.command line as well too, in the event that there is actually something related to it. So we're going to move that over as well too. Just like that. Whoops. Process.command line. 1, 2. Cool. So now we have a bit of a chronological view. We have a left to right type of visual. Up to you and your preferences of how you want to do this, but as long as you can start building out some type of general narrative. So process.command line is containing a bunch of events, right? So what do we see over here? Probably some auto start things going on. And we could probably throw in a filter right now if we wanted for user.name being a local admin, which is going to immediately bring this down to 2,054 hits. Now, what are we seeing? There's a bunch of empty events going on inside here. Now, what's interesting, right? We can see, in this case, July 10th, 3:5900, Powershell.exe is running the net command. Okay. And the net.exe command is actually executing local group. So by looking at the parent and the child in this case, we can see what's actually being executed. Because remember, the Powershell.exe is a process that allows us to input commands and call commandlets to the operating system, which actually runs other binaries or other things or other API calls depending on what's going on. So it's important to have that parent to child relationship. So PowerShell is calling net.exe, and the full command of the user was actually net.exe local group. So that's interesting. So I think we're sort of at a point right now we can start maybe filtering out this a little bit more as well. Like, do we need all those empty ones? Probably not. There's a bunch of things over here for like Elastic Agent, Explorer.exe. There's a bunch of empty stuff. So what we could maybe do is do something like process.command. Yeah, process.command line. Let's just use something like that. And we could do an asterisk for anything. So we could do a search quickly for that, which is going to bring this down another 548 hits at this point in time. Now there's a bunch of SVC host activity going on over here, but we know that's not what we're looking for. So what about maybe let's do some more filtering on just PowerShell.exe. If that's where the user was operating out from, that would be good to know at this point in time. So now we're down to 98 hits. That's pretty good. Now we're seeing a lot of duplicate activity happening over here. So whatever was going on with the initial index is suggesting that we're getting duplicate entries. There's probably a reason for that. So let's go over here, scroll to the left. And if we take a look at this, let's take a look at these first two ones to kind of see what's going on, right? So event action start. Event action end. Okay. So maybe we could do something like this. If we really wanted to, we could do a filter for maybe event.action.start. Or rather exists, I should say. Let's change that. Is start. And that should effectively cut it down to half. So guess what we just did? Just by being smart with our time. We built out some columns to figure out the parent and child relationships of what's going on with local admin. We then trimmed out the event action.end, so we're a little bit more interested in what started. We saw they were effectively just all duplicate entries. And what we have here is the entirety of what this user did. So everything that local admin did on PowerShell itself. So if we scroll through this, we can see they ran so ipconfig, tac-ano with netstat. So looking, at a bunch of activity. Network related. They're looking at accounts, local group. They're looking at who am I with /all. So they're looking at all the permissions related to that user. They're also looking at the groups that they belong to. Again, more permission enumeration. They just ran the net user command. So they're just looking at users in themselves, accounts, local group, groups, again, more user activity, more who am I, more netstat. It looks like a lot of repeats of these types of commands. So interesting. Now, I think at this point in time, it doesn't look like any persistence was messed around with. Okay? There's no registry entries. There's no scheduled tasks. There are no files being created. There are no user accounts being created. Persistence at this time, per local admin, running Powershell.exe, we don't have any persistence related IOCs or IOAs at this point in time. Process. Well, there's a lot of process activity. Sure, it looks like they actually executed a ton of network activity. Sorry, a lot of process activity by running net-related commands. So they ran, there's ipconfig, they ran netstat. What else? I think that's it. So in terms of process related, they did a lot of enumeration of user accounts and groups, and also looked at network listening activity on the endpoint as well too. So that's strange, but not necessarily a breach at this point in time. However, there is a lot of unusual enumeration by a local admin. And again, we don't know the baseline. Who knows? Maybe they are meant to be doing this, but it is unusual, right? Now, network-related activity, we don't have anything on this at this point in time. So if we didn't know what was available to us, we could maybe look for some logs around some of the protocols. So maybe we're going to throw up some more columns over here, maybe like network protocol. What else do we have? Do we have anything available? Okay, so let's look for host, and let's look for... okay, so there's really no destination going on actually at all. At least for these logs. So we're going to come back to that. So we have host IP. Let's look at destination and source, and then let's also look at DNS. So let's take a look at maybe DNS question.name. Now, just like a quick skim through all this, there shouldn't be anything here on the command line unless we missed something, which we didn't, because we didn't see anything like curl or wget. We didn't see anything related to that, right? So let's get rid of this search bar over here. And actually, you know what we should also get rid of as well too is, let's get rid of process.parent.name as a filter for Powershell.exe. Okay. So now we're actually going to get things like MS Edge. So now we're moving beyond the terminal because we've ruled out the PowerShell prompt at this point in time. There was nothing more than just general enumeration that happened. So what is happening beyond that? Well, if we got rid of filtering for Powershell.exe, we can maybe look for something that they might be running, like a browser, maybe like MS Edge. So now we have 134 hits for us to kind of peruse through at this point in time. We can see that MS Edge is part of it. Do a quick kind of skim through all this. Okay. So nothing captured over there. Let's get rid of event.action.start as well too. So now we're getting into the territory of this is now sort of like impossible to to figure out, right? Now we've got too many events because we've drilled up too far. So what do we see? We have process.name is explorer.exe. We also saw MS Edge. But more importantly, let's look for dns.question.name. Well, let's see just if there's anything related to this by a local admin. And here you go. Because remember, everything is going to have DNS. There's always going to be some form of resolution when we're looking at network activity like this. So we can see over here that it looks like the user did actually query an old S3 bucket, CDA Foundations. That's an old one. And 49 events is not hard for us to skim through. And we've built up our columns so that this is easy for us to look at. Looks like they went to Azure. It looks like they loaded MS Edge. Those are sort of like the default things I think that would pop up. And that's it. Well. What if we did something let's see if we actually had any outbound traffic at this point in time. Destination.ip exists. Let's just throw in an asterisk over there. Okay. So now, just by looking at the IP, maybe there may not have been DNS resolution. So let's look at just the IP level. A lot of public IP address in this case. So let's look at destination IP. So this is a DNS type server for sure. I think that might be like Google's secondary one. And then some public IP addresses over here, 204, 23 that we could look at that makes up the bulk of the traffic. Now, a lot of those, they actually don't even have a DNS request at all. But that looked like normal activity at the same time when we went through it. That initial MS Edge start. And it doesn't go anywhere beyond that at that point in time. Okay. Now, I think we've ruled out quite a few things at this point in time. What we maybe haven't ruled out are certain event IDs. Maybe there's something that we didn't catch, right? So if we wanted to do something like what's that old website? Ultimate. Yeah, here you go. Okay. Awesome site, right? So you're not going to memorize all the event IDs, but here's a nice little list of all the security-related IDs. Great website. I've referenced it before. What if we wanted to build a filter around that? What if we were looking for some things that actually made more sense to us? So what if we did like event.id, or rather, sorry, event code, I should say. Actually, I have an old search over here as well too. So event.code, and we could do a search for a bunch of the common ones. So we're looking for like successful logins, failed logins, process creations, service installations, user account creation, and such like that. So now maybe we can throw in anything related to these event codes. This might make it a little bit easier to see. So we got a bunch of 4624. And there's a bunch that we could actually look at here for like event actions. If we wanted event outcome maybe, and so forth. So what had happened? We can see there are no other events related other than a bunch of login failures. So, I mean, if we wanted to, let's just open one of these up. And this came from the FileBeat log shipper. So authentication and the message. So unknown username or bad password. Local admin was trying to log in. This event is generated when the login request fails. So, local admin had attempted to log in and then successfully logged in, ran a bunch of network enumeration commands, opened up MS Edge, and that was it. That's all that happened. It's unusual. There's no breach, though. We don't have any other events related to, like, service installations, no user accounts, because we looked up event codes for that. That didn't come up. All we have is local admin failed to log in and then ran a bunch of network enumeration commands. So nothing fancy. And truthfully, I mean, you're going to get a bunch of false positives like this all the time. I mean, obviously, if this was an internal follow-up, we're going to want to speak to local admin and find out what actually happened, or maybe this was approved. But that's effectively using ELK. So there's nothing fancy at the end of this waiting for you if you're looking and hoping for some malware. not in this case. This is just some unusual user activity at this point in time. But this is how you would want to use ELK. You want to keep those events low and be specific on your searches and be targeted on what you're looking for. He was trying to sign up for CDA. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's true. He was interacting with the CDA Foundations bucket. So I don't know. Something was going on there with this user, right? Karina, could it be someone trying to explore to attempt future breach? Possibly, yes. That's why it's a security incident. And this is why we've investigated it, and we've identified that a bunch of very unusual enumeration commands were being executed. They were looking for user accounts, user permissions, listening services, listening ports and network activity. So there was a lot of unusual enumeration activity happening. Could just be an actual administrator. But either way, we've ruled it out. And in terms of event codes, all what we've been able to determine is that, well, they failed to log in a bunch of times. But that's it. But we've ruled it out, and that's the most important part, is we went in, and now we have an outcome with some degree of confidence, and now we will report. We will summarize this, whether that's ticket documentation or an analyst report as well, too. That's it. Kurita, maybe, but the logs data says nothing malicious. Exactly. What does the evidence say? It's not always malware. Like, it's not always something malicious. I'm telling you. You let me know when you get your first ticket that Sally logged in 15 times at 7 p.m. and couldn't remember her password. Just let me know. That's all I'm going to ask. Let me know when you get that type of ticket, because it's coming. It's going to be a lot of false positives, but we do this for a reason. It's a security incident because it's unusual activity and an unusual pattern. So that's the power of ELK. That's it for the lab. What you've noticed is we started thinking about what we wanted to look for before we committed our time and energy to looking for it inside of ELK. And when you know what you need to look for, it's just a matter of typing things out over here, whether that's IP or DNS or user, and then you know the fields and properties that you're just trying to find, and then you just piece together the narrative. Now, if this was more of an investigation, we would probably want to be looking more at like process.pid and process.parent.pid, and you would just capture this. So we would have copied out all the activity and put that somewhere else inside of a ticket or documentation. That's it. Which we're going to be learning more on, like the report writing and such as well. So you guys having a fun time in chat over there. Pretty cool. So as a SOC analyst, you'll be looking at a lot of logs. You'll be doing a lot of this. But it's based off of your knowledge of these kind of 3 core areas of the analyst triad. Cool. Cool. So what's next is, what we've done is we've introduced you to ELK. You now know how to mess around with it, look for filters, get through different queries and logs. You're going to have 2 challenges in this module. These ones are harder. This one is actually including a binary. This one is actually including a detection. And we can see over here that it's related to something with maybe Excel. So something Office related. So these 2 challenges are now going to take you further from what we've done at this point in time. You know how to use it. You know how to prepare a light investigation. Now what you want to be able to do is go and actually do some more hunting. So you have 2 malicious log activity challenges for you to do in this module. These are mandatory for students that want to keep moving forward with the content. If you feel like you're good enough at that point, you just kind of want to do other things, that's fine. But these 2 challenges would be mandatory for you to push your push yourself. Now, when we get to building our home lab, so Neil's going to be coming in and helping out more with that, you are going to be setting up your own ELK instance. So it's not too complicated, but if you were at home and you had your own home lab, you could go and set up ELK and ship logs from another endpoint at home and then do your own investigations all the time. And that's really the point of building out the home lab after this, is now you've learned how to work with this type of material, you should go and apply it. That's really it. So again, to recap, before we're even committing cycles to performing log analytics and hunting, we want to be thinking back to our 3 core areas, our Analyst Triad, right? What are we looking for persistence, process, and networking? Here's a non-exhaustive list of a bunch of things that we've already touched base on. Registry keys, auto runs, file creation, variables, auth and current logs and such. Process related, we're looking for parent-child relationships, we're looking at arguments, we're looking at threads, DLLs, we're looking at some type of anomalous activity related to that, etc. And then from the networking, it's pretty straightforward. We're looking at in and outbound levels of activity and which ports are involved. And remember, if we have HTTP or anything with IP address resolution, we're probably going to have DNS as well. So that's a bunch of things that you want to look for. And then what you want to do is just go and look for these things inside of ELK. That's it. And you're going to match up what you're looking for per the scenario, per the alert, per the investigation. Cool? Make sense? Clear? Clear? Clear like mud. Cool. Yeah, that's right, KS. You know what? This is actually ELK index activity of a student trying to get their level effect mug. Zeno saying all the challenges have been really fun to figure out. Awesome. Love hearing that. Yeah, the challenges are where you're going to have to push yourself a little bit. And that's where you apply, right? The labs are guided. They kind of like we're walking you through it. But the challenges get you to apply what you've learned without guardrails. You got to get a little bit off script and push yourself. Okay, let's take a little bit of a break, just like a little fiver. And then when we come back, we're going to be looking at Yara. Can't believe that doesn't actually bring it up. Let's go look for it. Good old Yara. Okay, so you're typing just fine. So Yara, right? Yet another recursive algorithm, I think, or yet another ridiculous acronym. I think so. Yeah, yet another ridiculous acronym, I'm pretty sure. I think that's more like the unofficial name for it. Yara, we're going to be looking at is a pattern matching tool. So we're going to come back to that. Doug saying, you guys haven't got it yet. The final challenge is if you hack and Anthony in my networks get a super secret t-shirt. Damn right. Malicious, thanks for the follow. Yeah, the ultimate challenge. So the end game bosses are Doug and I. That's what's happening. There are mini bosses along the way, which you've been fighting, and you've got two like rare spawns happening over here. These two malicious log activities challenges. And that's about it. Okay. All right. 11:12. Let's take a 5-minute break. And let's come back to things with Yara, okay? Sound good? All right, all right, all right. We're back. Yara looks, let's take a look in chat. So yeah, Yara looks fun, absolutely. Karina, what is going on February 7th? I think Neil is giving a talk. Wrote down his AMA. Yeah, no, that's coming up. We're gonna put the event up as a Discord event soon. Once we get, I just need to get the image made up for the event and host that. And we just finished up Fleetus's presentation yesterday, so I didn't want to overshadow that. So we're going to share that starting next week and get the LinkedIn event to get that on the newsletter and stuff as well. It's going to be a really good one. Yeah. Neil is the guy for all this, setting up the SIEM, the pipeline, and all that. What we're training you on is the analytics portion, the analyst side. It's making sure you can actually use the tool, which is more pertinent, I would say. Actually, I should say depending on your goals. CI, can you post the question you want feedback on Discord? Yeah, I can do that after the stream as well. So, cool. Okay, we're back in action. So a little bit more to go. Now, the thing that I wanted to also highlight again with ELK, the thing with ELK and Splunk and introducing you to log analytics, as you can see, is it's not overly complex in terms of what you need to do. It's just a matter of learning the fields and getting more experience and exposure. So that's important. And I want to highlight that training on ELK or Splunk or log analytics is not, it's one of the more important modules to get the point home that it is not something you can just listen to. It is not something that you can just watch someone do and say, yes, I can know it or I can recall it. It's not like the sysinternals tools when you're looking at Procmon, which is very clear and it's a single intention. It's a very single intention, right? When we're looking at sysinternals tools, you know that if I'm talking to you about Procmon, you know that I'm talking to you about process threat operation events. You know when I'm talking to you about Process Explorer, it is only doing one thing. We're only looking at process-related activity and looking for anomalies and deviations within that tool for that specific thing. That is easy to recall. That's easy to remember. That's easy to work with. And it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. You just take the different tool out, you use it, and you're done. That is easy. And there's only so many things you can click on. ELK is not like that. Neither is Splunk or any of these log analytics or these SIEM-based types of tools. These are the tools that you actually have to go and get a lot of experience. You just have to use it. You need muscle memory, you need clicks, you need fingers on the keyboard. You have to actually go through the motions because it is a multi-tool. It does everything related to a single point of investigation. As you can see, there are thousands of pieces of data to look at, and there are arguably dozens to hundreds of different ways to find the same type of information. That is a huge contrast to sysinternals tools that it's like a knife or a screwdriver. You take it out, you use it, there's really only a couple ways to use it, and then you're done. So I'm going to stress that again. These challenges inside the module are mandatory. You need to do them. You need to go through them. You need to get that muscle memory has to be built. You have to go through the motions of performing investigation and threat hunting with a log analytics tool. And I'm being very serious about that. This is one of the tools that if you just watch or listen to a demonstration on, it actually won't serve you any purpose really at all. You're going to probably forget a huge portion of it. And this is why we introduce you to it very quickly, but then we tell you, okay, now go do the work. As opposed to the other tools, we actually spent more time walking through them and kind of demonstrating different things, because once you see it, you can recall it quickly, and then that's it. It's not ambiguous. It's not arbitrary. You can't recall it that differently. And with ELK, you can. So this is the one thing that you do have to go get your hands really dirty on and figure this out. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, good. Good. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to be kind of firm on that one and be very direct. The other ones, you can sort of, you might kind of miss like a couple things here and there, and you're good to go. But ELK is something you do have to do. It's one of the more important ones. So go and do those challenges. Okay, let's go take a look at Yara. But I see a couple things over there in chat as well too above that while I was ranting and raving. So, Bearded, you're getting the SOC Analyst of Death package soon. Awesome. Very cool. Make sure you get that if you can financially support it before the 14th, because the price of death is going up. Almost double. It's on the early access price right now. A t-shirt. I mean, yeah, look, if y'all want swag and of different things like that, just let me know. Go drop them in Discord. Tell me what swag you want and what logos you want on what, and that'll make it easier for me. KS, setting up something like ELK can be tough, but if you show them on a project, yeah, exactly. It shows that you actually understand it, like the pipeline. And that's important because remember that SOC analysts are a means to an end, and eventually we want more engineers, we want more proactive, preventative solutions. We don't want firefighters all the time. Okay? We want to get away from firefighters. We want to prevent the fire from happening in the first place. SOC analysts are firefighters, so learn this, do well, get experience, move on. Start focusing on the advanced intermediate content when you can, because that's where the industry will go. So yes, getting an understanding of it now is going to put you above the competition when you're on an interview, and you can talk about the CI/CD pipeline of getting logs set up, shaped, normalized, and into production, and tweaking and tuning all of that stuff. KS, you're sending details to me on that actually. Okay, cool. That's related to Bearded's comment? Yeah, all right. Yeah, go in Discord. Drop what you want. Go to the general channel. Tell me what swag you want, what logos you want, what products you want. Tell me what type of CDA live content you want. Like, do you want a Saturday or Sunday? Tell me what your price appetite is. Just go and share all that, please. That just makes it easier. I have some feedback from the content survey, but just go and just tell me what you're looking for. And as you can see, we build what you want. It's a pretty simple relationship. What you want is the content that we will provide. We're not trying to guess or force anything on you. We just want to help you out. Make sense? Let's go. Yara time. Okay, so you guys say tried your best, yeah. Okay, let's close up ELK. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna go inside. Okay. Going to all right, let me just log back in on another tab. 1 second. Looks like my session expired. Oh, they made an update, I think. Yeah, I see there's a Slack message. They probably pushed an update or something. Okay, 1 second. 1 second, 1 second. Cool. Okay. Back in action. The positive suspect. Thanks for the follow. Nash and Hash. Thanks for the follows as well, too. Missed both of you. Sorry about that. But thanks for following. Doug, you want to see me with the Guy Fawkes mask hacking the FBI database or something? You can put whatever you like in the survey. What transpires after that will be a surprise. Okay. Login event analysis. We're done with that. Okay, all seen Yara. All right, as I mentioned, so Yara... Wait, no, sorry, that's a challenge. 1 second. So intrusion detection with Yara So we actually have a malicious script, and Yara is a pattern matching tool, like I mentioned, for strings and binary related patterns that we would expect to see in malicious scripts, code, files, processes, etc. So anything that we would expect to see being executed from a static level, more specifically, we can use a tool like Yara to effectively perform like a giant grep search. It's just doing a giant string search or a binary search through the file or through the code, and then it will tell us if we've tripped a rule that we create. So let's go and see what this actually looks like. We're going to go inside our Windows workstation, and we want to download this script. It's Microsoft patch.ps1. So this is potentially something that someone might download, right? Microsoft patch.ps1. That's something that someone would look and download and not be too worried about. So I'm going to go inside my browser, download that, and we're going to go inside of our folder. And we're going to go and introduce you to a new tool called Visual Studio Code, which I don't think we've actually shown you just yet. Should be here, yeah, Visual Studio Code. And Visual Studio Code is an IDE. It's a code editor. It's also a text editor as well too. And you can write code inside of here, and then you can build and compile that code with some more tools to create binaries and executables and DLLs and such. Anything within that PE format that we've seen previously in Windows Triage. It'll take a little bit to load the first time, and we will stay in dark modern mode. That's cool. Close that up. Go to File, and we're going to go to Open File, Downloads, Microsoft patch.ps1. Open that up. You're going to get a prompt, and this is a permission check to make sure that you are okay with opening up certain files, and if you don't trust it, you can put it up inside of a restricted mode with some limitations. We don't really care about that. So let's go and open it up in full open, and let's take a look and see what this script is actually doing. Okay. Yep. Okay, good. Make sure that I'm tracking over there. So what do we see over here? So echo user, and this is going to go and put to a recon.txt file. It's going to run the whoami command, and it's appending it to recon.txt, and then it's sleeping. There's a bunch of movie magic going on over here. It's saying start sleep for 10 seconds, which is just making the script pause for 10 seconds. But what we're doing here inside of this malicious script is actually performing some user enumeration. And these are some of the commands that we saw inside of the ELK exercise too, right? Whoami priv, groups, all, net local group, net accounts, netstat, tacano, ipconfig. So we're looking for user and users and groups and network related information on this endpoint. This is a malicious script. It is trying to collect information that could be potentially used for compromise or escalation of an attack further down the attack chain. So that's what's happening right now. That's what this script is actually showing us. And we can use a tool like Visual Studio Code to get a better inspection of what it actually is. So if we had something like this downloaded on our system, or these commands were part of another program, maybe this was like a VB script. So we looked at the Cobalt Strike beacon, I think was it last week or the week before. We did some analysis inside of CyberChef, and we were able to determine that Cobalt Strike beacon was being executed via VB script from a .hta file. Well, what if the VB script code executed PowerShell to run this instead of the Cobalt Strike beacon? So this is where a tool like Yara could come into hand and run a scan against a file like that or files similar to it, and let us know and alert us if those files or those binaries would contain malicious commands. So let's do a file. We're going to go to new text file. And let's start typing some syntax over here. Now, the way that this works is we want to declare a rule. And we can call this like detect suspicious script. Okay. And we'll put strings. And for now, we're going to put conditions as well, too. And on the bottom, you're seeing that it's saying, do you want to install the recommended PowerShell extension from the PowerShell language? We could hit install, sure. And it's going to bring us to modules. Or rather, sorry, extensions. So extensions, not modules. So extensions are additional lines of code and like little applications that we can install into the editor, sort of like a browser extension that you would have on Chrome, like Bitwarden or LastPass, maybe not LastPass, but other things, right? Like Privacy Badger, uBlock Origin, those are extensions, and they're just additional functionality that are added onto the existing application. And that's what Visual Studio Code offers. And it's other IDEs as well too, and text editors that are like this for code, is the community can build extensions that allow greater support and extensibility to what you're doing inside of the application. So like automatic code completion, automatic commands as you're typing, it can tell you what you're doing wrong, and it's sort of like a little buddy, like an assistant helping you write things as you go. Cool. Now let's go ahead and we're going to save this. Let's go back over here. I'm going to open that up a little bit more. Whoops. I'm going to hit Control S. And I'm going to save this to this over here. And I'm going to call this suspicious script.yar. So this will allow us actually to make a whoops. Forgot to get rid of the txt. Okay, so Real and File Explorer, and I'm going to get rid of that txt file at the end. Yes, I want to change this to a .yar file. This is now going to say it's no longer there in the directory. That's fine. Going to open this up again. Open up file. We're going to open up suspiciousscript.yar. Okay, so it's saying that the marketplace has extensions that can help with .yar files. Search marketplace. We can see over here that there actually is a Yara supported extension. So let's go ahead and install that. Super quick. Close of extensions. And now you can see some syntax being highlighted for us. Okay. Let's see if I can get my... Okay, good. Zoom in a little bit there. Let's also bring that down. We also have a little terminal over here in the bottom that we can execute commands in, which is super handy, right? So we have a little PowerShell prompt over here for us to work with. So notice that we have some syntax being highlighted for us for colors so that it makes it, I guess, a little bit more visually easy to determine and discern what we're typing and what is wrong and what is correct. So it'll actually even let us know that there's an error over here. So this actually turns red. And this is because it should be condition. So that's something that I wanted to highlight, is if you type something incorrectly now, it'll tell us that we're doing something wrong. So a lot of programming is not about reinventing the wheel. And we're going to cover more of that once we get to the defensive scripting and the Python programming modules. Talk more about that. Cool. So what do we want to do here? We want to go and actually supply some of the strings that we're looking for. Now I'm going to expand that. And I'm actually going to use the little right screen over here so we can split the editor. And that's another powerful feature of working with text editors and these IDEs, is you can have a dual view. So on the left-hand side, I can see my suspicious script, and on the right-hand side, I could see my Microsoft Patch.ps1. So if we were a malware analyst, or if we were performing malware analysis and threat hunting and detection engineering, sort of combination of all three over here, and we were a SOC analyst, and we had uncovered a malicious binary or a malicious script. Well, what would we want to do? We want to build a rule for it to detect it and prevent it from getting into our network in the first place in the future. That's what we're going to do with Yara. We are going to use Yara, this pattern matching tool, to build a detection string against what we have determined inside here to be a malicious level of activity. We don't want, or rather, we want to be able to detect when a file or binary contains the whoami command, or if it's running whoami priv, etc. So we do that by declaring variables. So go inside here and we just do the normal $sign. And naming convention can be entirely up to you. We're going to go with whoami. We're just going to call them A, B, and C for now. So get local user is another one. C equals C users. And remember what I said before, a lot of these types of queries and filters eventually have to escape the backslash character because that's a reserved character for other commands. So you actually have to put two backslashes inside there. We're going to go with D net. Net is another command we want to be alerted of. E, we'll go with ipconfig. We want to be alerted on ipconfig. We also want to be alerted on netstat. That's strange. And finally, G was another one over there for start sleep, because that's also kind of strange. So we're building a detection rule for this Microsoft patch.ps1 type of script. Now, conditions. Conditions, there are different ways that we can do this, and this we're just going to say a blanket rule for any of them. It's like plain English. So the rule is detect suspicious script. The strings we're looking for are these, and the condition to be alerted is any of them. So this is the current rule at this point in time. So I'm going to save this. And I should just be able to run Yara over here. So just to be sure, let's do a Yara tac version. If I can type. Yara tac version. Okay, so it is a binary that we can reference and call from the command line. That means it's in our path. That means it's installed on our workstation. So we clear that up. And if I were to do Yara suspicious script.yar and just put it towards this directory, notice that it actually worked. So it's saying that the rule tripped and Microsoft patch.ps1 was detected. So this is, if we ran Yara, like this rule, whoops. If we ran this rule against like our entire computer, then it's going to look for everything, right? So in this case, we're running this against this current directory. We could, even if we wanted to run it against Microsoft patch.ps1, more specifically, because it will also include itself as the rule that's being tripped, because it's also going to pattern match itself against itself if we run it against the directory. So there's two different ways you can do it there and just kind of demonstrate that concept. Makes sense so far? Pretty straightforward, I would imagine. It's basically plain English, right? Clear. Cool. Makes sense. Good. Okay, so let's make sure that things are working as well. If I wanted to, let's go make directory test folder. Okay, and I'm just going to go echo who am I into test folder test malicious script.txt. Just call that for now, okay? Now I'm going to run the Yara rule again, and I'm going to put it against test folder. And, oh, sorry, I'm going to do that and run it against the test malicious script. Okay. let's try that locally. Who am I? Test script.txt. Yara suspicious. I wonder if it's So I actually don't know why it's not actually tripping on that file. So that's something that is not being apparent to me at the moment right now. So we have who am I inside of it. We have that going on. Not actually sure. Don't know why it's not running against that that file. Okay. So for the hell of it, let's go. Who am I? Unless I'm just like not seeing something right now. Let's go do test script.ps1 and let's try that again. Let's go inside of here. Yeah, that's kind of weird. I'm actually not sure. Okay, let's go to Notepad. Let's try to do this the other way around. I wonder if there's some type of formatting that's happening. Let's just do who am I? And we're going to save this to downloads. And we're going to go to malicious test.txt. Okay, we're going to save that now. Okay, so there's probably something that I'm not thinking about right now, so that's working. There's probably something when I'm doing like the echo. There might be there's probably another character or something being added that I'm not visibly seeing right now. And I know that could be a bit of a Windows thing, right? So echo who am I to test script.ps1. Test script.ps1. So who am I? I bet there's like some type of carriage return or something here that I'm not actually visibly seeing, as opposed to this. So that's something that I actually have never seen before, so that's interesting. So there you go. That's a bit of a thing to learn on the spot. So apparently, if we're going to be echoing things, and I don't have an answer for that right now, something I can look up later, into a file like into whatever, and then I ran the Yara rule against it, it actually didn't trip for whatever reason. So I'm just going to assume there's something that I don't really know or understand about the way that this functionality works. So it's not actually who am I. There's maybe like another character or something added onto it, which is fine. But for demonstration purposes, we did Control S, like we saved a notepad file for who am I, and this actually was detected. So that's interesting. If anyone has an answer to that, let me know. Otherwise, I'll look into it later because I'm kind of curious myself. Yeah. So Yara searching for who am I exactly? Yeah, it's looking exactly for who am I. Yeah, Karina, like exactly. At this point, we're doing like perfect pattern matching for it. So out of just for fun, just want to see if that's going to work. No? Okay. So there's definitely some type of like, there's something appending. I don't know. I'll look into it after though, and we'll find out. Yeah, there's something with like the carriage return or code adding or spacing. Yeah, that I actually don't know about. So interesting. If the conditions aren't met, then the script won't run. Correct, yes. So according to this detection rule, none of these were found inside of this file over, which one was it? Test script? Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting over there. Okay, so anyways, what we could do, if we run this, we can also add a little bit of metadata to the rule as well too, and give at least a bit of an idea like what this rule is actually doing. And we can add some things to it. So I'm going to close that and close this. I'm going to open up Notepad again. Karina is saying CI, so the script will run but won't find files where conditions are not met. Correct. Yeah, it'll run, but if the conditions don't match any of those, then it's just, it won't report on it. So if I go inside here and I write, who am I? And let's say net, and I don't know, IP config. Okay. And I'm going to save this as like multi-line malicious.txt. So if I run Yara now against this, right, we can see that it's been able to detect that right over there. Now I can change this to be a little bit more discriminate, because maybe I want to say, let's put any of A, B, let's say C and D as well too, D, and so any of those, and any of E and F, and any of G. Okay. Do a word wrap as well. So now the script has changed, and it's saying only run the rule against files that match 3 conditions, and we're using AND logic. So 1 and 1 is equal to true. Both have to be true. This isn't 1 or 0 is true, or 0 or 1 is true. This means 1 and 1 equals true, and that's it. So that's what we're saying. So we're saying in this case, if we run this script now against the file and say any of these first, so it has to have any of who am I, any of get local user, any of C / users, any of net. So it has to have one of those. And then it has to also have anything of net or IP config or netstat, and it also has to have anything of start and sleep. So if I run this now, let me save that actually. There we go. Let's clear that. Now, the results have changed drastically. So it'll match. This is actually a much more specific and a smarter script, because it's not just going to be a wildcard that catches anything. This is now going to be a detection rule specifically for a malicious script or a malicious binary that is looking specifically for those types of attack patterns inside of it. So Karina's asking, so all of the 3 conditions have to be met? Correct. All 3 conditions must be met in order for this to work. So this script over here says there's who am I, net, and IP config, but it's missing start sleep. So let's go ahead, and if I add start sleep to this, it should pick up on the multi-line malicious script now. And now it does. So that's pretty cool. Now we have the ability to write a specific detection pattern rule. At this point, if you were an analyst and you found a binary or you found something malicious, you now could put together a Yara detection rule to be ran against any downloaded scripts that could alert you if malicious patterns were detected inside of it. That simply and that easily. And that's really how powerful this tool is, because it's so easy to work with. Yeah. Now, a couple other things we can do. We can also add in some metadata. So we can go to the top. And metadata is just information that you should be sharing, and just documentation, really, for you to write inside of the rule, so other people know what you're doing and why you're doing it. So we could say something like author is equal to Doug, the Yara wizard, and description, gotta catch them all. Okay, so now if you went online and Doug had a GitHub, which I hope all of you start working on very soon, go build your GitHub and go write detection Yara rules for things that you're interacting with inside of the course or research that you're performing, and try and run and go and create a successful Yara detection rule against something malicious that you found. Put in your author name, put in the description of what it is and how to actually run it. And then, of course, you can look in for some more advanced logic of what you're actually trying to do. Pretty cool. So what do you think of Yara? Let's have some fun. Let's go and do Yara suspicious rule. And let's run it recursively as well too. If you want, you could even do it against folders upon folders, right? So it has the same like recursion metric as well. So this is effectively like the beginnings of detection engineering. This is what detection engineering is like. You have something malicious, and you need to perform some research and analysis on it. And then you create detection rules that look like this, but are just more advanced. And honestly, this is fine too. This is still a very good detection rule at this point in time. It's specific so that it doesn't trip up everything in your system. Now, I know that if users were downloading or interacting with scripts that had maybe something around like persistence, process, and networking related activity, well, here you go. Anything that a user downloads, I could now run this Yara rule against, and you can see like it's instantaneous. It is super fast. And it's like working with English. Now, you also at this point know like Yara detection rule GitHub. Here's a ton. Take a look at some of these, right? Now that you know what it is, APT1. Here you go. Rule for Aruga APT1. Here's more of your strings. Here's what it's looking for. Aruga driver. Again, it's looking for service host. You know this. More DLLs. The ARP, if we're looking for ARP calls. Author of who it is and what it's actually doing, and so forth. What you're seeing here, these are professional, enterprise-grade detection rules with Yara. And you can understand that now just by going through what I went through with you right now. It's the same thing. Look, condition, all of them. Strings, we're looking for this, we're looking for that. All we're doing is we are determining and tracking down what are the fingerprints, the footsteps, the reflective activity of what threat actors are doing and their malware and their malicious patterns. And then being a good investigator and a good threat hunter, we take those patterns and we build them into detection rules like this. So you can see like right away, it's actually not that complicated. It's just a matter of getting a little bit of an introduction of how to work with this. So very cool. Jordan's saying, wait, a couple back up. So yeah, Jordan's saying, can't wait to dig into these modules when you're in SOC 100-2. Yeah, you're gonna enjoy it. A lot more to learn. CI saying that's hot. Yeah, you're enjoying Karina. Nice. Bearded saying sick. What else? So Doug saying, yep. Doug says, yep, so there are a bunch of great Yara scripts and templates out there. It is helpful for a bunch of detection, defer, and threat hunting capabilities. Yep. Karina, I knew Karina was going to enjoy this one for sure. This is so cool. We can understand this. Sorry, that's... Jordan's saying, sorry, what is the wide ASCII? I believe that's for compatibility of UTF encoding. I think that goes all the way of like... I think it supports up to UTF-16. And I think that's for, so if I were to do something like malware and, I don't know, M0 something like this. I don't know off the top of my head. Or rather, wait, I'm typing inside a Twitch chat. 1 second. M0, zero, something like that. I think it would support searching through both of those. Jordan. Bearded makes everything easier. Yeah, totally. Demorier, so you came across Yara briefly and other things and can also be used to detect hex codes. Yeah, exactly. So you can pull up hex patterns, and that's where you get into the binary level. So remember we looked at the binary on disk. Well, binary can be interpreted with hex. And I was thinking that maybe we should include that for this. I think I'm going to come back to that and maybe do a more advanced stream. Maybe in SOC 100-5 we can cover a little bit more advanced concepts of Yara. But I think that's a good start for now. Like, let's just get you working on your first basic Yara rules. And then you actually have the challenge inside of this module of all seeing Yara. And we're giving you a defanged malware script. And we want you to go and build a Yara rule against it. So you should be able to detect this rule and make sure that it works. We'll also have some additional efforts as well here too. So you could write more conditions as well. Doug saying, so you recently used a Yara rule to find all the instances of a known malicious IP? Yeah, and it was inside of your environment. So yeah, so like if you went inside here and let's just say, I don't know, string net A, I don't know, was something like 192.168.2.1, right? Net B. So all the things that we've learned to date now, all those IOCs, 192.168.2.3, like if we knew that those were malicious IPs within our network that we were looking out for, well, now we could run for activity like this. Yeah, very cool. Jordan saying, got it, so it deepens the search compatibility a little. Yeah, so a lot of these detection rules have to account for the various UTF encoding that people can mess around with. So that's why you end up with repositories of like look how many detection rules are here. These were written by people. It takes time. Yeah. So take a look at this. This is kind of cool. Go back to that. So take a look at this condition. So this condition says the condition is URL and parameter and one of any of the pay variables, but with the asterisk. So that's a pretty cool detection condition. That is saying it has to have this URL, it has to have this parameter, and then it has to have any of the pay. One of the pay. So it's going to be looking for a match on this ASP URL, these parameters on the URL added onto it, and then does it have something like d.exe or em.exe? That's a pretty cool condition, demonstrating how you can combine variables over there with the asterisk wildcard. Nice. So, you effectively know at this point in time now, let's see where we're at. We have threat intelligence and report writing to go, and then Neil's malware lab. And then at that point, you have effectively built the foundation of your SOC Tier 1 analyst skill set, and it's just experience and exposure at that point. That's it. That is it. That is it. So in this module now, you know how to, we've looked at event logs before. You now know how to work with ELK, which you have inside of your range. And you also now know how to work with some basic Yara detection rules. So your challenge now is to go and complete these ELK threat hunts. Go and hunt in the index that we provided for you and find out what happened with the malware and the malicious activity. And then go and build a detection rule against a defanged PowerShell malicious script as well too. Yeah, thanks, Abby. Yeah, Yara's open source. It can be integrated. It can be integrated with a lot of things. Rocks Red, interesting. Well, welcome for being here. Thanks for the follow as well too. Good to have you here. Rocks, all of the recordings, all these streams are on our YouTube, so you can go back from class 1 all the way up to class 27 where we're at today. Yeah. Bearded saying, no lie, this knowledge is even tier 2 stuff depending on the organization. That's true. Yeah, we actually do cover enough to have introduced you to some tier 2 level of activity in SOC 100-1, 100%. We want to make sure that you're really prepared. And then CDA would take you further from here, and then all the cool stuff we have coming up right after that. But that's it for today. So shorter stream today. Rocks. It's cool. Yeah. Nice. Awesome. Jordan, you can watch stream in one sitting. Yeah. Yeah. We're not going to be doing like 4-hour streams in the future as well. I think once we get the foundation down, we can get away with like a focused 1 to 2 hour piece. A little bit easier for everyone, I think. Karina, tomorrow's report writing. I need to update that actually. Sorry, we need to adjust the schedule. So we have a conflict in schedule with the guest instructor, so he's gonna have to come in the following week. So tomorrow there's no stream actually. Okay, so there's no stream tomorrow. And I need to update the schedule. So I think what we're going to do is put report writing here. Let's refresh that. So report writing is actually going to go on February 9th. And there is no stream tomorrow, actually. So I need to get that updated. Do that right now. So a slight change of schedule. I apologize. Just had a bit of a conflict over there. So there's no stream tomorrow. You now have time to catch up. Please go review the recordings. Stay in Discord, chat, hang out in the sprawl. And I want all of you to be working on your malicious log activity challenges over here. Easy does it. Yes, spring sports has begun. Yep. Jordan, well-deserved break. People pay thousands for their entrance. Yeah, Jordan. It's true. It is true. So I'm glad to see that we're getting a lot more interaction and more engagement. We're just going to keep on doing it. So I appreciate everyone sharing the word about Level Fact and getting our name out there. I'm definitely seeing the growth happening. So I appreciate everyone going and sharing what we're doing. It's awesome. So yeah, Karina, I'm going to leave a Discord message as well too. Doug's going to hang out a little bit more in the afternoon for sure. Cool. Okay. So that's it. That's all we've got for today. So you can all see it's not that complicated, right? Detection engineering, the basics of it is using things like Yara to write detections against patterns. So IOCs, IOAs, looking for TTPs, and then stringing that together using basic logic, string pattern matching, right? Like, is the pattern inside of the file or binary? Here it is. Here are my conditions, match, and alert. That's effectively how all of these controls work. And then log analytics with ELK is persistence, process, and networking related triage activity and tasks using filters inside of ELK. That's it. So the better you are, let me go back to that over there. Okay. So remember, the better you are with these things, with this information that we're looking for, with persistence, process, and networking, the better you understand these, the better you can do these manually, then the easier it is to get to and work with once you're using a SIEM and you're performing threat hunting with logs inside of something like ELK or Splunk. So important point to hit home. So once again, appreciate you all hanging out on Saturday. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the good questions and comments and engagement. And no stream tomorrow, so get ready for a little bit of a break. But a break means go and watch the old streams or the old content or the challenges and keep yourself caught up. And then next week, we're going to be wrapping up SOC 100-2 with cyber threat intelligence and our report writing modules. And then get ready. The following week after that is digital forensics and your virtual SOC. So get ready. We're going to have you inside the virtual SOC very soon. And that's it. It's just tickets. You got a lot of tickets to work through on your own and keep on developing your expertise. So, cool. Thanks for being here, everyone. Have a awesome rest of your Saturday and Sunday, and we'll see you back next week. Have a good one, everyone.